Hello.
Hello. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm very well. I'm laughing because just as we went live, that phantom figure appeared behind you again.
Oh, God. I tried to tell him about that. Honestly, he did tell you. I mean, he couldn't have done it 5 minutes before, could he? No.
Every week.
I should say, Jonathan, you saw him too.
I did. I saw it.
I apologise about that. He did try and limbo dance underneath, but I'll need to get the ghosts in line in here.
So how was your week?
Actually, it was really busy this week, I've got to say. Really, really busy. I'm meant to be in a few days off, I've got to say, but still came up to the Supernatural, doing the Supernatural magazine, because obviously it's my passion, and it's hard to let go of your passions, I think, even when you're meant to be on holiday, isn't it? How about you? How's your week?
Yes, not bad. A little quieter. I've done a few outside broadcasts. I've done a few lives. We did a woodland cemetery, which is a very difficult space because obviously very noisy. And particularly at summertime, of course, it doesn't get dark until about 10 o'clock at night. But we were there until about midnight. It was atmospheric, put it that way. Atmospheric.
Very good. There's a very interesting atmosphere going around at the moment. Very mystical and very intense, high vibration. Yeah. Well, I'm feeling it anyway. But I can't wait to speak with our guest on for today, Helena Byrne. Hi, Helena.
Hello.
It's fabulous.
How are you doing? Thanks so much for having me.
You're very, very welcome. We've been so excited to speak with you, I've got to say. Haven't we, Jonathan?
We have indeed. I know. I'm just sorting out which camera we're going to go to because I'm getting way too excited.
You got yourself overexcited there, Helena. I do apologise.
So what I'm going to do, I'll take myself out of the picture and I'll let you two have a little natter.
Well, yeah, you go for it. Yeah, we're quite happy, isn't it? All girls together. Right, so I want to say to everybody, thank you. Yeah, that's it. He's out the picture now, Helena. We'll be fine. But I have been really excited all week since Nori, our co-editor, has announced that you were coming on, because just because of the whole kind of the history and culture, I mean, bringing together the tales from all over the world, really. So I need to tell our viewers who are watching right now a little bit of background about you, if that's okay. As they've probably read, our special guest this week is Helena Byrne. I made the mistake of calling her Helena, and probably those of you that are in Scotland probably did the same thing if you're viewing this. But let me tell you, Helena's storytelling interweaves Irish history and culture, tales of the other world, the mysterious fairy folk and Irish ghost stories, which last week, Helena, we had a doctor on talking about fairies in the garden, as well. So, I mean, it really ties into that. Yes. Now, your special combination, you've combined it with traditional Irish songs and wonderful, fabulous insights into the Irish life of days gone by. Now, this experience will awaken your imagination, guys, and carry you back to the fireside in Ireland of times past. Now, Helena's latest album, I think, is, now you might have to correct me in the spelling and the pronunciation, right? Because obviously I got Helena Saol Eile, is that right?
It's Saol Eile.
Saol Eile. Oh, Ella, right? Saol Eile. Afterlife. Yeah,
yes, exactly.
Wow. So, and I've not heard of that before, that terminology. And it's a gripping collection of Irish tales of the supernatural, from haunted castles and poltergeists to guardian angels and fairies. Helena delves deep into the captivating world of Irish ghost stories and Irish people's unique relationship with the afterlife, which absolutely they do. Helena, very, very massive, big welcome from all of us here at Supernatural. How are you today?
I'm not too bad at all, despite the rain and everything. I don't know how the weather is where you are, but it's pretty miserable here in Dublin, but you're here. It's all right.
Flash floods, I've got to say, or flash rain, where massive hailstones and things. And today, after some intense heat, we've got it's raining a little bit on and off here today. I'm in Scotland. I'm actually near Stranraer, right, which is, where the ferry come across to Belfast. So they call the people that live around here Galloway Irish. All right, so they're kind of part Scottish, part Irish. So I've got to say, and I myself have Irish blood. I've got from you know, a few generations ago. Probably explains the red hair, but there you go. For as long as I have been a medium and worked in this industry for 30 years, right? So for as long as I can remember and have a memory of the folklore, the tales, the fables, the Irish culture, you know, all interweaved in a fabulous, mystical way. And even the music, we've all heard of Enya, haven't we? All right.
Oh, well, yes, of course.
Let's talk about that. But can I ask you, what made you have an interest in compiling the stories of the folklore and supernatural? Where did it all start from?
Well, I mean, I've been telling stories for, I'd say, going on about 11, maybe even 12 years now. And my main focus to begin with was always the Irish folklore. So I would tell stories about the fairy folk and that. And I recorded an album a number of years ago, which was a collection of Irish folk tales. So it was specifically about the fairies and Irish people's belief in the fairies, because it's nothing like Tinkerbell. Irish people, they truly believed in the fairies. There was a strong belief, and in years gone by, Irish people, they lived their lives with these superstitions that were part of their daily lives. So they took it really, really seriously. I can't stress that enough. So that was my main focus. But then really, when you delve into the supernatural and Irish folklore, it's very hard to actually separate the two. There's quite a crossover between some characters, such as the Banshee. I'm sure you've heard of the Banshee, the harbinger of death. Yeah. And of course, she would be regarded as being one of the fairies, but of course, there's this connection with the afterlife and death as well. So it just felt like a sort of natural progression, really, to go into the supernatural and not just ghost stories, the way that people would deem horror movies and things like that, but just really anything to do with the world that we still don't quite understand. So that's why I've got stories about guardian angels and still some of the fairy lore that intertwines with the supernatural as well. So it's all about the afterlife as such, not just ghost stories, shall we say, if that makes sense.
Oh, no, definitely. So you yourself, have you had any personal experiences within the supernatural that you brought into this arena?
You know, I haven't, and I'm okay with that. I said from the beginning, actually, when I started researching these stories, that I want to tell the story. I don't want to be part of the story because I'm a total scaredy cat. You know, I'm a typical Irish person, I suppose, and I think the Scottish are the same. I don't believe in ghosts in the daytime, but then when nighttime falls, that's when I become a total scaredy cat altogether. So I really just wanted to gather the stories and be able to tell them, but I've never had a personal experience as such. There are some experiences within my family. A relative that I won't name just in case, because he actually didn't want to share the story for the album. But he did have an experience many years ago when he was in boarding school, and he did a seance with the priests who were working at the school. Yeah. And it was with a Ouija board, and various things happened, such as the windows breaking, and it was really quite horrifying. He reckons that they probably had some communication with a demon or with the devil or something like that. And it actually shook him so much that he didn't want to share that story on the album. There's such a fear still there. My sister, however, she was very comfortable with sharing her story. And she had an experience one night when she was living in Galway in the west of Ireland, where there had been a number of burglaries in the area. It was a sort of countryside kind of area, so not many people around, kind of a few houses out in a field, shall we say, that kind of village. Yeah. And a few burglaries in the area. And one night she just woke up at 3 o'clock in the morning. If somebody had just brushed past her, and for some reason it just came into her head, the door's unlocked. So she got out of bed, went to the door. She had not only left it unlocked, but it was actually open. Mm-hmm. So she closed the door again. And after talking about it for a while, we reckoned perhaps that was our grandmother that had woken her up, or somebody who had come back, maybe a guardian angel who just decided they better give her a heads up and let her know that the door was unlocked. So, it's interesting. I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what that was that night, but it was something that she never experienced before and hasn't experienced since. So,
but was able to know there was a difference. It was like a different energy, which I think is the fascinating part, isn't it? It doesn't mean that it happened all the time. It was just relevant to that situation. So that's great. And reassuring that, just to know that when the chips were down, somebody had your back, right? To let you know I was good as well. Yeah.
It's nice to know that I was there. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Fabulous. So here we go again with the title of your album and my pronunciation. How did the title? Where did you get the which means afterlife, of course. How did it come about? Where did that kind of come? Did it just come into your mind one day, or did somebody mention it, or did you get an aha moment and think when you heard it, that's it, that's the title? Or
it was sort of an aha moment, I suppose. And I mean, I'm not a fluent Irish speaker, so I would always second guess myself when I'm translating things from English to Irish. So I asked a few friends who are Gaeilgeoirs, they're proper Irish speakers, what exactly the translation of afterlife would be. And they said it's Saol Eile. But interestingly, the direct translation of Saol Eile, if you actually translate it exactly, it's other life. And I found that quite interesting. I think it says a lot about how the Irish feel about death and the afterlife, is that it's not something that comes after life. It's just moving on to an other part of life.
Yeah.
Which I thought was very interesting. So it was a happy coincidence that I stumbled upon that. And it really does say a lot about the Irish people's belief in another world, shall we say, and that we're not all just gone. It's not afterwards. It's actually, it's present. It's just other.
There's an automatic, it's like an understanding and already acceptance. It's in their culture, it's in their DNA, it's in they're brought up with it. It's just an acceptance of, they're probably more puzzled when other people don't have that same kind of expanded belief. I think probably.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. I suppose it is something that's sort of ingrained in the Irish people's psyche, I suppose. We certainly have a deep respect for death and the afterlife, shall we say. And I've had English cousins who they come over for funerals of relatives, and they can't get over the size of a lot of these funerals, that every Tom, Dick and Harry from every village comes and pays their respect. And of course, I'm sure you've heard about what an Irish wake involves. It's a huge thing. And my husband, who's actually German, he experienced that firsthand when a relative of mine passed away about 2 years ago. And all of the neighbours and the family were coming over to the house, and the body was laid out in one of the rooms in the house. And he, being German, he had never even seen a dead body. So for him, this was weird foreign experience that people were, not only was the body laid out, but people were having conversations around the body and sharing stories about the person, and that it all seemed so normal to them. And he was just thinking he was in the Twilight Zone, So it's
counseling after that. I know, going one extreme to another, really, isn't it?
Exactly.
I think the Irish way of their term of family, I think it's absolutely outstanding. And I think that so many other cultures could learn so much from the way that the Irish embrace the term of the meaning of family. That's for sure.
Yeah. I think that's true. True. Yeah.
Even bringing children up, that sort of thing, it's the family, it doesn't really go very far without the family. And a lot of society, getting into a different, subject now, a lot of society, because of the way that, society has put a lot of pressures on, working mums and all the rest of it, and traveling away and living elsewhere, that they don't have that same closeness of the family circle, do they, to bring the children up. So I'm loving
it. That's very true. Yeah. If COVID-19 has done anything positive, I think it's made a lot of people slow down and realize the importance of that. Definitely.
Yes, absolutely. So the whole bringing together of your amazing album, the storytelling, probably at the right time as well, Helena. You know, like you're saying, everybody's, you know, at home, and
Yeah.
remember the times in bygone years, you know, that people's entertainment was just sitting around the radio listening to the entertainment on the radio,
Yeah.
you know, and the songs there.
Or even not even so much the radio, but before that in Ireland, when everybody was sitting around the fireside, and it was really the Shanachie, the traditional storyteller who travelled from village to village, sharing news and sharing stories. And our value of storytelling was of such high regard then. And I think now that we aren't having these face-to-face interactions, people are realizing just how much we need those face-to-face interactions, and just to chat about the weather or anything. You know, it's so important in so many ways, mentally and physically and everything.
Oh God, yes, Helena, definitely. I mean, even my vibe, my instinct, my solar plexus is so raised when you're talking about this, and the whole interwovenness of the folklore, you know, the Irish way of doing things, the storytelling, like you're saying. They used to have a person, I can't remember the name, well, I can't pronounce the name.
Shanachie. I know I'm throwing a lot of weird words at you today.
Wow, I'm thinking, why are we not taught this in school? You know, you go to Wales and you've got to learn the Welsh language as compulsory there, right? And yet it's not the same for like the Irish language, like Gaelic as well. You know, it's not the same for that. And yet it's sad that we'll probably lose it at some point. So it's also a reminder when you're using that terminology, Helena, that actually, you know, it's wow, people should know more about this. So I'm fascinated because I've seen some of your gorgeous pictures. Can I just say that? What made you and also the fact that we've seen the gorgeous pictures of the castle, and we mispronounce it as Leap, but it's pronounced.
Yeah, it's actually pronounced Lep.
Yeah,
we just have to be awkward in Ireland, you know. We're just trying to trick everybody else and just make them pronounce things wrong, but it's actually pronounced Lep. I loved researching Lep Castle, I have to say. It was it's such an incredible place.
Absolutely. We have to show those. We saw them beforehand, and even though we weren't scheduled to show those, I wanted to everybody to do that. So thank you, Jonathan, for doing that. Look at that. That is incredible. Right.
And that was in an abandoned church in County Kildare, which was very fun.
What made you choose to cover the story of Lep Castle on your latest album?
Really, it was so I certainly wanted to cover a number of castles in Ireland because so many of them have such a rich history and so many ghost stories attached to them. But as I actually visited Lep Castle, and it's one of those places, and I know you're going to know what I'm talking about, when you just step inside and you just feel the history in the walls. I mean, I always say about places like that, if walls could talk, I'd be out of a job. Because it's just an incredible place. And a lot of the castles that you might visit in Ireland, they've become museums or they've become hotels or something. Whereas with Lep Castle, it's almost like time travel. You just step inside and you feel as if the past and the present are, you know, they're both present in the room. It's just incredible. And then there are so many stories to Lep Castle that really I could have done an entire album about it. Instead, I did 2 long tracks on the album. I had to just, you know, minimize the amount. But for so many generations, it just has so many incredible stories through the O'Carolans that owned the castle to begin with generations ago, going up to the present day, to the present owner, Sean Ryan, who, hand on heart, he will tell you every day he's got some sort of peculiar experience, and he hears noises and doors that don't exist anymore opening and closing, and footsteps and all sorts of things when the walls are incredibly thick, when everything is shut, the windows are closed, doors are closed, and himself and his wife will still hear voices of people having conversations in another room. And I can't stress enough how incredible it would be to actually go and see that castle if you're in Ireland, in County Offaly. It's a little bit off the beaten track, but that's all the better, really. It's well worth it.
Oh, we've seen the stunning pictures, I've got to say. And already when you were talking, I called truth bumps, you know, the goosebumps, and I think you've wonderfully navigated even myself, you know, into that. I'm feeling it already. I am feeling it already. We're going to play a little bit of a track from one of your albums for everybody right now, just for everybody just to hear the amazingness of this, guys. Listen to this.
Over 100 years later, in 1659, the castle's ownership was passed on through marriage to the British Darby family. And although the castle had gained an infamous reputation for being haunted, it wasn't until the year 1889, with the arrival of Miss Mildred Darby, that the spirits of Leap Castle became disturbingly unsettled. Mildred Darby was the wife of Jonathan Charles Darby, heir to Leap Castle. She was a well-educated, outspoken woman with a curious nature. And this curiosity led her to dabbling in the occult and dark magic, holding numerous seances during her time at Leap Castle. These actions were to become something she would deeply regret. And in the year 1908, she wrote in the British monthly magazine The Occult Review about her first encounter with the elemental.
Whew. Wow. That's incredible, honestly. And I really felt it. And I hope you guys watching this right now really felt that. Amazing. I can't wait to hear your album. So tell me and tell us all, what's your plans for the future?
Oh, well, like everybody, my plans for the future just went whoosh in the last few months. I was supposed to actually go to America and tour with this album, telling all of the ghost stories and creeping out plenty of Americans, but unfortunately that's been put on hold. So now really, I'm just going to, I guess, focus on researching more stories. I'm always looking for more stories, particularly stories that are perhaps dug deep into an Irish family. Maybe a grandparent has a story, or somebody might remember a story that their great-grandmother used to tell, because I have a very strong belief that we need to record these stories before they're lost. So really, that's for the next few months, that's what I'm going to focus on, just trying to get in touch with people who have these stories and want to record them or share them before they disappear, really.
Well, wow, you know, I'm so sorry your plans for the future have been put on hold with that, but we've had some amazing. I know we're all stuck in behind computers, and a lot of our work is done virtually and things. So maybe a virtual tour or something would be quite good. And you know, now, yeah, it would be. And also the people, we're getting comments here, and I have to ask you, how can people contact you with their supernatural stories and experiences? Have you got?
Wonderful. Yes. So you can go to my website and I'll have all my contact details there. They can go to helenabyrne.com or irishstoryteller.com, which is easy enough to remember. So.
Oh, yes, it definitely is. And I think you'll probably be inundated. There we go. There's your website.
Oh,
there we go. I know. I think I've really enjoyed this. Listening to that excerpt of your album, even when I played it back 4 times yesterday. Can I say that? Because and each time it gave me the goosebumps. And I could imagine, I would have loved to have been a child, actually, and my mum playing, you know, those stories to me as I was going to sleep. You know, that would have been wonderful.
Oh, yeah. I had to it's funny you say that, because I had to sort of give a bit of a disclaimer when I was releasing this album, because the previous albums were a little bit more kitsch. You know, there was stories about the banshee, but also the leprechaun and things like that. Right. So I had to make sure that people buying the new album, you know, don't traumatize their 4-year-old child, because there are a few pretty creepy stories on there.
Oh my goodness, so, I can imagine. Yeah. Thoroughly enjoyed meeting you, Helena. Absolutely.
You too. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely
lovely to talk to you.
You as well, and thank you so much for coming on. I think we've all really enjoyed it. You've opened everybody's eyes here, and we hope that you'll come back on again in the future.
I'd be absolutely delighted.
That's amazing. Thank you so much. You take care.
Thank you a million. Thank you.
Back. Look, there he is. Oh, we can't hear you.
Sorry, I've muted myself to make sure you couldn't hear me drinking my tea. People have been asking where they can purchase Helena's album. So I think the best thing to do is if you look on Google or look on her website, we put the link up at the bottom, helenabyrne.com. And then there's several albums that are currently on for sale. So I definitely want to hear the rest of that leap story.
Oh my goodness, Jonathan, I'm still all goose pimply hearing it. I'm still all goose pimply hearing it. It sounded awesome, didn't it?
I mean, there is an art form to the storyteller. And when you listen to her stories, they are mesmerizing. You're really drawn into that entire environment. And then look and have the ability to see those pictures as well was quite special because they are very evocative.
Yeah, very, very much so. Very much so.
Excellent. So we have another guest.
I know. Where do we go from here?
I know. I can see him sitting backstage at the moment, probably listening to us. We have Marq Inglis. He has just waved at me, so I'm going to bring him in because I think he's ready. Hi, how are you?
Very well. Hi. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, a little bit quiet. If you can increase closer.
There we go.
So I'm just going to hide that. So we are joined by Marq. Now, if anyone doesn't know, Marq is a filmmaker and actor, and over the years has directed an assortment of short films and documentaries, all sorts of stuff. Very involved with the Sutton Film Festival, which was established in 2002. Now, also an author of the book Paranormal Surrey, an entire establishment of books focusing either cities or counties by Amberley Books that we'd certainly recommend. And he's written for numerous magazines, Paranormal Magazine, Ghost Voices Magazine, very often called in to talk on programs like this, talk about anything about the unexplained, and also an amazing vlogger. And I think, are you up to 167 now?
Yeah, about 167. Yeah, over the last 2 and a bit years. Yeah.
That must take a lot of time.
Because I've been a filmmaker so long, I can do a vlog. I mean, you film it and edit it about 3-4 hours probably, going back to it. Don't do it all in one go, but yeah, I've got one ready to do now. So it doesn't take too long. And I quite enjoy editing as well. So,
for example, I've got some screenshots of the videos which you can look on your YouTube, and you walk around some amazing locations, anything from your travels and tales to where you actually focus on dowsing itself. What do you try and achieve in those vlogs?
Just showing, I mean, travel in general, whether it's abroad or here in our lovely country. I'm just trying to show some of the countryside that we have here and some of the rich heritage we have. I do like listen to Helena just now, was fantastic. I mean, I love folklore, absolutely love folklore. So I'm interested in that album as well, actually. But yeah, I like to show off sort of some of the hidden heritage as well. Get off the beaten path a little bit and show some of the places that people might not know about unless you're local to that particular area. So yeah, not just doing sort of, let's go to Hampton Court, which I want to do again, but showing some of the little oddities within our countryside.
So, I mean, have you even focused on certain aspects? Because there's one, for example, on dowsing. Were you going to focus on the more paranormal aspects as opposed to some of the heritage of the location? Because the haunted heritage is a brilliant thing to focus on, but you're also a very keen paranormal investigator in your own right with your team at Spiral.
Yeah, I mean, also I've got another channel for that, which is Spiral Paranormal, which are also on Amazon Prime Video. But I do want to bring in a bit of the. I don't like the word haunted because I personally don't think anywhere is haunted. I think it's everywhere. So wherever you go, you're going to find something, or there might be some tale connected to it. So yeah, I think I will be bringing in a little bit of the folklore, some of the stories into some of the places I go to, which I haven't done much of, which surprises a lot of people. Because I think they're more just heritage walks and visiting heritage places. I'm going to do a whole series on dowsing. I've been a dowser for about 25 years, and there's that's going to be very interesting, especially when you're dowsing around sacred sites, like churches or Iron Age hill forts, Neolithic sites. Some results can be very, very interesting. So yes, I'm going to do a whole series on dowsing soon. We can get out. Well, we can get out properly, but I probably need another cameraman to help me do that because it's hard to do it on your own.
A little bit difficult to video yourself and douse at the same time.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you can get any closer to your microphone because you're a little bit faint. That'd be amazing.
It's a brand new. I don't use webcams very often, so I'm a bit of a novice here. I'm trying to get in shot as well. Move over here.
It's the reverse of what you instinctively want to do. So you have to go the opposite direction all the time.
I'm a bit in shadow there. I do apologise.
Now, you have written for the Supernatural magazine under a title of Confessions of a Paranormal Investigator.
Yeah, there are articles that I used to write for Ghost Voices magazine. And I've also just done a reading of them on my YouTube channel as well, some of the old articles. I do look at the paranormal a little bit differently to most people. As I said earlier, I don't think anywhere is haunted. I think haunted is a silly word. I think if spirit exists, ghosts exist, they're everywhere. You know, I've got a lot of raw psychic friends, before Lara could sort of back me up here, you know, they see stuff walking down the street. They just see stuff at work, you know. I don't think you need to go into an old castle or an old manor house to find a particular spirit or story. I think you'll find it anywhere, pretty much, if you've got a good team behind you, good psychic, which is what I'm really interested in, people with psychic ability. Obviously, Wimmering Manor, which is one of my favourite locations. I know it's a manor house. I'm being a bit, I'm going back on what I said, but I absolutely love that place. I think it always delivers. Yeah, I don't think you need to go anywhere. All these people hiring at these places for their groups, but paying silly money when they could just go to a local pub or something after hours and find something. So yeah, I think I just like things. I just have a little bit of a different view to everything, to your normal ghost hunting. I'm not afraid I don't really like too much outlook on things. I just have a little bit of an alternative viewpoint.
I read with interest about the protection, circular protection that ghost groups do at the beginning of an investigation. Now, you're laughing already. It's something which I found curious when I started doing it. I've now learnt that it has a purpose. The purpose might not be what people think it is, but it has a purpose. Very often I find it calms people down. If you believe in spirit protection, then it's there for you. As an organizer of events like this, it's a very useful way of working out who might be the gigglers, who are taking this intensely seriously, who have just come because they want to be scared of the dark. And you can start matching people up, because obviously you don't want the screamers, the gigglers, to be next to the people who want to take this very seriously, because they'll find it very frustrating. So it has its purpose. But I read in your article about it is quite amusing, and for those who have never done it before, they do wonder. And also sometimes the different techniques of protection, whether it be bubbles or showers or duvets or all sorts of things I've heard, which have made it particularly interesting and slightly unusual.
Yeah, I mean, I went an investigation once as guest of another group, so about 10 years ago, and there was a protection ritual at the beginning. I joined in reluctantly. I think, yeah, whatever, you know. So did my team who were with me, my guys. As the evening progressed, the other team were all getting possessed, all falling over, all this, and we're just all looking at ourselves going, okay, why is this not happening to us then? I thought you had protection to stop that happening, you know. And I've had that quite a few times. I just, each to their own, it's just nothing. I don't really see what it works on. If it works for people, it works for people.
So what other excuse me, I was going to grab a message. What other things have you found on paranormal investigations that you found slightly strange, shall I say?
The main focus I'm interested in, I'm not interested in getting scared and all that stuff. I mean, you do get spooked a few times, as we all well know. I'm really interested in people's psychic ability. And I like working with raw psychics. They're people who aren't professional mediums. So, you know, I'm talking generally here, they haven't got nothing to prove. So raw psychics, my friend Mandy, who I've worked with now for 12 years, she's an extraordinary psychic. And yeah, I find it interesting to see what they can come out with. Especially when you know, I've got friends who are out somewhere, and you're not even thinking or talking about the paranormal, but they're like, oh, sorry, there's someone just walked past me, and there's only just us two there. So yeah, that psychic ability is something that really, really fascinates me. You know, is our consciousness beyond our physical being, which I think probably is. I'm very much interested in what's going on in the bigger world, away from our three-dimensional world. You know, we're going to get into quantum physics and all that, but I won't go down that road because that's a tough subject if you're not a scientist.
My favourite subject.
Yeah, that's what really fascinates me is people's psychic ability.
Of all the places you've visited as part of your vlog, when you've walked around those locations, which has sort of struck? Which have you thought, I need to go back to this location?
That's my home away from home, a place I think most people know, Avebury in Wiltshire, the large stone circle and that sacred landscape. I've been going there 30 years, and that place just resonates energy, especially if you're a doubter. So Avebury, I think, is from a personal connection to it, also from the energy centre. I would say Avebury, very, very much so. From a building point of view, I know it's a bit of an obvious one. I've got a real draw to Mitchell Priory. I mean, yeah, absolutely love Mitchell Priory and Wimmering Manor. Wimmering Manor is also a personal favourite. You go in there and just, I'm sure as you well know, you've been there many times, you go in there and you think, something could go down here. No, I said I don't think anywhere's haunted. I think it's everywhere, but there's something strong energy-wise in that building. Yeah, Avebury and Mitchell and Wimmering Manor, definitely.
We did. I've done quite a whole series now of live lockdown vigils where I've been alone in the building, apart from the key holder. And so, not last week, but the weekend, last Saturday, I was actually 3 hours locked in Mitchell Priory. So it was an eventful night, mainly because of the huge spiders that they have there, which was quite terrifying. And also, when I was at Wimmering Manor, I did a live lockdown, and again, I got attacked by a very large spider. Because for some reason, the ghosts don't worry me. These spiders do. And on lots of occasions I have been on lockdowns, I'm more concerned about a member of the public being in the building, and that's more worrying than actually any kind of ghost. People say, how can you be in those locations on your own? It's not really bothered me. It's the idea that someone else might be there I didn't know and that we're expecting, or you're sitting on the floor doing some calling out and then a spider crawls up your leg. That's what would probably freak me out more than anything else. But yes, no, the Mitchell Priory has a certain magic about it, definitely.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm a bit of a skeptic. I don't mean I don't think there's. I do totally believe there are ghost spirits, consciousness, high consciousness, well into that. But I'm a skeptic to a lot of evidence. I say, well, why do you? If someone sees a ghost, well, what the conditions of you seeing a ghost? You know. But at the same time, what you just said, if I was alone, locked in Wimmering Manor on my own, I will be spooked. Of course I will, because I'm a human being. So yeah, I would be. As you say, it's not really the ghosts you've got to worry about, the spiders. But yeah, I would be as spooked if I was there on my own. Of course I would. Of course I would.
So recently did an investigation where we tried to see whether we could do an investigation outdoors. Now, obviously, a lot of the places you've been to have been quite, how can I put it in, spiritual in terms of energy, and they're external spaces. But don't you think it's very difficult to try and tune in to an external space when there's noise all the time, especially in the summer, because obviously people don't shut down until 10, 11 o'clock. So you've got to wait until the early hours before it really calms down.
I think it's extremely difficult. And I've had a lot of psychics say that to me. So, you know, they'd rather have it all quiet so they can, as you say, tune in. It must be very difficult. Obviously, I'm not psychic. I have a little bit of something. But yes, I think it must be very, very difficult. You know, also you're saying, you know, it is quieter late at night. I don't think, even if you're in a quiet space out in the countryside and you're doing someone's opened up, you're doing the investigation, there's no reason you can't do it at 10 o'clock in the morning. I don't really understand why people do go something at night. I think that's still a throwback to sort of spirituality with the Fox sisters and ghosts come out at night. You know, I still haven't found any real reason why people do paranormal investigations at night when you could do it at 12 o'clock midday. Most people see apparitions during the day anyway. So yeah, when we start up again, we're going to start doing a few more daytime vigils, or maybe late afternoon into evening. You know, when the people just something to sort of calm down. But I just can't find any reason why you couldn't do it at 10 o'clock in the morning as opposed to 10 o'clock at night. Personally, it's
interesting you say that because of when running events at Wimmering, I'm there during the day a lot. That's why Wimmering would never freak me out. So I'm there multiple times a week, and all my paranormal experiences of the past 10 years have been at Wimmering, and they've all been during the day, in the afternoon, never at nighttime. And also hundreds of investigations I've run there, and hundreds of investigations when I've been on site monitoring other groups who are doing investigations there. And I've never been detected or felt anything in the evening. It's always been during the day that anything has ever happened to me, either an audible or a corner of the eye phenomena has occurred. Yeah, as you said, always during the day. And I think you're right. Why do we lock ourselves away at nighttime when actually there's an awful lot going on during the day?
Exactly. And you're an intelligent person. I know you for many years. So that's it. You're looking at it from a different perspective. Another example, following on from what you just said, my friend Mandy, who's a psychic, they had an apparition scene at the place of their work. Oh, it's gone dark. Sorry. What's it gone dark? Okay. I hope you can see me there. At 9 o'clock in the morning, they saw her and her friends saw a full-blown apparition at work at 9 o'clock in the morning. And my friend didn't say, "What did you just see?" She just said, "What was that? What did you see?" Then said, "What did you see?" And the friend said, "I just saw a bloke in a tweed jacket." And this is a school, of all places. And then it appeared again at 12 o'clock midday. And that's double witnesses, which is even rare, a very rare thing, but absolutely fascinating at the same time.
Right, I'm going to bring Lara back in. And the reason being is I'm sure she's got some comments on this. So, Lara, we were just discussing about when us ghost hunters or paranormal investigators, we very often go out at night time and look at places. And Marq was saying that a lot of stuff happens during the day. Now, as a more spiritual person, you're going to obviously say it's like Marq does, it's around us all the time. How would you advise us to basically be more observant about our environment so that we potentially could detect stuff during the day and not have to wait until after dark?
I think that's down to nurturing the whole feeling sense, right? To try and detach from, because we're so conditioned to seeing is believing rather than believing is seeing, right? And when you tap into more your sensory type of, things going on in the body. So in other words, at nighttime it's easier, you see, because it's darker. You don't see so much. There's less activity physically going around. There's less distraction. There's less going on, right? So it's easier. And think about it. You're going to sleep at nighttime, right? You're actually switched off in your conscious mind, aren't you? In your logical mind, you start to feel more about what's going on round about you. So, and then people detect things. It's in the dark. They make that association, don't they, Marq, of, oh, stuff comes out in the nighttime. Stuff doesn't come out in the nighttime. It's just easier to feel and detect on a nighttime because there's less going on. But during the day, if you were more conditioned to feeling and had the ability to disregard what you're seeing, right, to disconnect from the attachment to seeing things to believe, then you start to pick up more. And it's a conditioning, isn't it, Marq, after that? It's a daily working at this daily, if you can imagine from a baby, you've been taught to actually see, to know, to see, to believe because you're seeing. But in actual fact, to get to that side of what you're talking about, you have to reverse it round the other way.
Really nicely put, actually. Very nicely put. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I don't know if I described it okay, Marq. Yeah.
Beautiful. Yeah. I think you need to be in the zone, don't you? Wherever you are, you need to be in the zone. You can't just finish today's work and then go out and do a paranormal investigation. You need to
Society does not make that easy, though, does it, Marq? It doesn't make it easy. There's so many distractions. There's so much wiring and appeasing the logical mind, right? Therefore, it makes you believe that unless you see it, it doesn't exist. But like maybe we talked about last week, Jonathan, with Dr. Jack Hunter, is that what if actually we're in an alternative reality and there's other people in a different reality saying, "Can you hear that? I heard somebody talking," right? Like there's a much broader conversation to have, isn't it, Marq?
Well, the multiverse is, even scientists are now looking into that. That could be a distinct possibility. So, yeah.
We need to have a talk about the multiverse and what that means. It probably twists everybody's heads, but once you expanding the mind, you're not just talking about ghosts and other entities and other dimensions. It's just the tip of the iceberg, isn't it, Marq? It's just the tip.
Absolutely. We're right at the bottom. We want to climb up to the top.
Yeah. How's about the belief will happen whilst you actually are trying to go beyond the attachment of seeing dead people or people that have passed or whatever? Perhaps if we took our belief system beyond there, that our understanding of the spirit world, of people existing in other dimensions or other realities will automatically actually fall into place and make sense during that, during that stretch of going beyond that. But because we're in a society of, again, trying to understand or provide proof or evidence and fixate onto that, then it's probably going to make it hard to get any type of evidence, I believe, anyway.
Yeah, that's my theory as well. Actually, that's really nice. I thought the same as you there, Lara, on that. Yes, I agree. There is so much more that we need to open up to. We've got to stop thinking of everything as a materialistic world. We're in a post-materialistic universe, so we really need to start looking beyond that. And scientists are now catching up with how everyone else is. I'm really interested in science. I'm total science advocate, but science looks at the material world that it can measure and make experiments on. It won't look at that. Maybe quantum physics, yes, it probably does, but that's something that's still a quite relatively new science, especially in the last 50 years. Yeah, we need to look beyond them. That's only our consciousness to be able to do that, I think. So yeah, I totally agree with you.
And of course, the whole measurement of time, it's time that gives measurement to things to be solid, to manifest as a solid apparition. So, but understanding that if things or stuff exists beyond the measurement of how we measure time, then maybe we might actually get there. How do you feel about that, Mark?
Oh, absolutely. Here's something. I'm not actually really a bit there. I'm not really even touching myself.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, we're not really a body. We're not exactly, because Jonathan's sitting. He's very quiet. Have you noticed that, Mark? He's got.
I was going to chirp in. So John Wheeler first proposed the multi-universe concept back in the 1950s as a way of interpreting what's known as the Copenhagen interpretation of quantum theory. And the theory has really been around for 100 years now. It actually started way back in 1890, but really it was actually Einstein's Nobel Prize winning work on Brownian motion, and the photoelectric effect that basically then gave rise to the actual foundations of quantum theory. So it has been around, and it is the most proven of all scientific theories. Now, relativity is catching up with that, but at the moment, the quantum theory is the most accurate of all theories because it's been proven to 0.1 accuracy. So yeah, at one point I'll love to talk. I'll talk all day about quantum theory if you want.
I think it's been around for 100 years. I mean, when I said the last 50 years, I mean it really after the Second World War, it really took a sort of a quantum leap, I should say. Because Einstein hated quantum physics, didn't he? Absolutely hated it. He could not get his head around it.
Ironically, that his work is the first recognized beginning of it in terms of it actually got the Nobel Prize. It wasn't actually what he was wanting. It was what he just couldn't cope with the idea. He often referred to as saying God does not play dice. And the reason being is he hated the idea that things were probabilistic. There was a probability of things happening. There was an uncertainty of things happening. He wanted a more certain Newtonian universe, which is ironic because that's what he was breaking the model of. So he hated the idea that things could happen at a distance, instantaneously. And that's what quantum theory was suggesting. And his theory of relativity was saying absolutely cannot happen. Everything is relative. And that's what he hated.
Yeah. But with every action, there's a reaction, right? With everything that exists, there's always an energy that exists off the back of that. Always. It's how the universe works. We work in the other energy that comes off the back of what everybody sees.
That's why there's a lot, with the law of attraction, things like that, which is, I used to dismiss as absolute open. I don't now. I think that's very interesting.
When you look into the universal laws, Mark, right, all of them, not just that one, all of them, wow, it totally broadens your whole way of looking at everything. You start to disregard everything that you've actually been taught, and you shift your mind into a different way of actually perceiving everything.
Sometimes, especially when we're doing meditations, I'm trying to sort of now it's easy to say think positive thoughts. I'm quite a positive person anyway, but it's just thinking, stop reading all the news on the TV all the time.
Yeah.
That goes on. Try and start thinking, this is what I want my life to be. This is what is going to be my life. Not it, you're wishing it, you know it's going to happen.
Yeah.
And that's to move forward, I think.
Yep. And momentum.
Momentum, yes.
Yes, moving.
Now, Mark, we are going to talk very briefly about one of your books. You have written a book on paranormal Surrey, and which is just, for some reason, it's loading very slowly for me. Is it covered the screen? I put a picture up, but it's not appearing for me. So in terms of, obviously you're based in Surrey, what would you consider to be, I know you say no location is haunted, But where would you say was the most atmospheric in terms of spirit? If any of the locations in Surrey you've been to?
I'm going to be honest, I judge everyone pretty much the same. Hampton Court is interesting, but it's just folklore, and you go in there knowing all the stories of Hampton Court. I don't particularly think there's anywhere more than anywhere else. And the book is almost folklore tales and ghost stories, which is something I don't really do. So it's not a reflection on how I think about the paranormal. It's more of a collection of just these sort of folk tales from around the county. But yeah, I can't really think of anywhere that's more rural than anywhere else, really. I think they're all quite fascinating, I think.
all locations have got little merits, and if you're going to pick something like Hampton Court with that amount of history and that amount of bloody history, you're bound to pick up one or two very interesting spirits in terms of that might be residual, if you believe in the concept of residual energy in terms of spirit.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think if anyone had a choice to investigate somewhere, I think Hampton Court would be the one.
So would you say, for example, it is more a case that people are haunted as opposed to locations are haunted?
That's an very interesting.
Yeah, that's a great one.
I don't know. Lara's probably the better person to ask that question to, because I haven't got psychic ability. But I always think it's things attached to a place. I don't know about when people say, "Can spirit follow you home?" Really?
What if it was both? We're going along that every action is a reaction, right? So you're saying, does it have to be people, places? Could it not be both? Could it not be all of it? Anything? There's a different energy off of anything that exists or everything that exists, right? So really the answer is everything.
So I often...
All the energies together, I like the... Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I like the concept of supernatural psychology. And in this, we're actually looking at the psychology of any spirit energy that we might be encountering. Now, obviously, different people behave differently. So some people are very gregarious. They love people. They're very social people. Other people like to be in their own environment. And it might be that some people like to be at home. They have their own belongings. They have their own things, their objects that they love. And other people don't care about belongings, don't have a set home. They're quite nomadic and they just want to be with people. Now, that could then pass on as a spirit energy, that some are much more associated with people and some are much more associated to places and things. And that might be why there's a link to sometimes psychometry of objects might be haunted, to places might be haunted, or sometimes it might be that they're actually spirits are attracted to the people they want to make contact with or have an affinity with, an energy with.
So energy we keep coming back to that word, energy. Yeah.
That's right. And what it does, it suggests that it has an intelligence, though. Energy has an intelligence.
Well, do we live in a unified field? Unified field in the universe. So
okay, and if energy is the world, then we can't say it doesn't create other things.
There's a lot of things with this law of attraction, which, I mean, when I say law of attraction, don't think of all the gurus on YouTube doing all their bits. I say law of vibration is a better one. Law of vibration, or law of frequency. Law of vibration.
Yeah, very good.
So do we tap into the unified field if we can? The quantum field. No one knows for sure, but we live in really exciting times with this subject. Really exciting times. Especially in the last 20 years, people are really sort of coming out and thinking differently as opposed to the program that we are all in at the moment. We're trying to sort of think outside the box, which I think people need to do, especially at the moment. Really do.
I think as well, and sometimes with all that, Mark, it's moving out. We have, as a human being, an automatic response to learning, to push ourselves, to quest the knowledge, to thirst. It's a thirst, isn't it? But a lot of this stuff can't be achieved by knowing about it and having knowledge about it. That actually blocks it. It's actually moving into the already knowing and having that, you have that understanding already and moving into that energy and just allowing. We're human beings. It's remarkable that we're here. I always look at the whole conception of a baby type thing, and if energy can take two cells, right, and make a human being with two microscopic cells that you can't even see to the eye, and it knows how to be a baby, right? Or a human being, it knows how to do that. Like an elephant, one knows how to be an elephant. Exactly. Then that's a manifested. That's alchemy. That's energy going from an energetic form into a physical form. Then I think we're capable of doing anything. really were remarkable.
Sheldrake, Rupert Sheldrake calls it the morphic resonance.
Yeah.
Did you say catch an elephant, know how to be an elephant? Where did that instinct come from?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, now I am fascinated in that, and Jonathan, I can tell you, is trying not to say anything here. Look, I can tell. Look, he's.
We need to talk about genetics and potentials of
I love the field
chemical potentials that then unleash this chemical reaction is unleashed with the genetic coding, and that's what then unleashes. But it does start with an energy, but yeah, very much so that there is a definitive energy at the Marq when a sperm connects to an egg. So there is an actual point of energy that occurs. And then all of these are locked in terms of potential, and the potential is actually a stored energy because it's then geared up like a wound clock. All these things are ready to go. They just need to be in the right place at the right time with the right affinity of then these energies connect, and then they and then chain reactions occur.
There you go. It's interesting.
And isn't that how the Earth began? Isn't that how the Earth began? As people, so is the Earth. That's the way I look at it. Isn't it a reaction of two energies together that we call God?
Oh,
I don't use
right.
If I hear, yeah, okay.
How to silence a room in one easy move. There we go.
I don't quite know.
A cooling plasma in the cosmogenesis. At the beginning of all of this, yes, you could argue that God might have been involved, but then after that, once again, it's just like in terms of how an egg develops, the embryo of the universe in terms of this cooling plasma are the same thing. It forms potentials, gravitational potentials, pull lumps of matter together that then form galaxies, solar systems, planets.
And the universe is huge.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. They call that energy God. What if entertain the whole idea that God is actually the reaction of the energy, right? It's not a person. It's not that's kind of, I was entertaining that. God, they gave a name to it and they called it God.
Yeah, I think I call it the unified field or whatever we want to call it, or the quantum field. Yeah. I mean, God can actually be quite a few different meanings, you know.
I love the fact that the grand unified theorem is a way of trying to bring relativity and quantum theory together in a way that because at the moment they're not compatible with each other. But basically, it's always abbreviated as gut. And I like the idea that, in fact, what we're saying is gut is God.
There we go. I love this. My God, anybody watching this right now, their head's going to be really twisted by the time they finish.
I think it's a very big subject, so I think we need to come back to this, and we'll need to break it down into smaller little sections of what really is energy and affinity and potentials, and it's a big subject we can come back to.
Absolutely.
I think Mark and I will be right there, won't we, Mark? We'll be right there.
Yeah.
So, Mark, thank you so much for joining us. We'll put links up to your blog, your YouTube blog, and the book Paranormal Surrey, if anybody wants to get a copy of it. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Thank you so much.
Lara, thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Right. That was interesting, wasn't it?
Oh, that really got my juices flowing. I don't know about you, but I thought, wow, this is a great conversation. We'll need to carry this on another time, all different aspects of it, and the way it all interconnects. Fabulous.
Pat's just said, my head is going round in circles.
I know. I think that's why I was laughing. I was laughing at, we've taken them from Irish folklore, and supernatural storytelling into
the depths
the
of
realm of
theory.
Physics. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Didn't mean to go that way. We just ended up there. But next time I'll do some PowerPoint slides and try and explain it a little bit better.
Absolutely. All right, so we do apologize for the sound issues there. We will, get onto that and deal with that, for the next episode, won't we?
Yes.
Jonathan, I did have some messages when you were interviewing Mark, backstage and what have you. So I was dealing with that as well. But I think on the whole, it was fascinating.
Yes, and then next week is going to prove even more interesting because we have Steve Parsons coming on, who is got one or two things to say about the world of parapsychology, definitely.
Oh, he definitely has. Steve is a character, extremely knowledgeable, very experienced, and is definitely somebody not to be missed next week. So guys, mark it in your calendar. 12 o'clock next Wednesday, we have the amazing Steve Parsons.
So until then, we will sign out. Thank you so much for joining us, Lara and myself, and we will see you next week.
Absolutely. Bye. Wow.